Want a build that can clear all content with ease? That's insanely cheap and easy to get online? That's so easy that even your demented old boomer brain can play it like a pro? Of course you do, you beautiful human being. This is the perfect build for you. It requires pretty much nothing to get online, and it'll get you farming T100s in no time. It's officially Dad Gamer approved, and mind you, it's fun as hell too. It's Brandish, baby, and it's one hell of a Brandish build. So cork up a bottle of brandy because I'm going to go full Brandish on this Brandish build now. But first things first, how does the build actually work? Well, this is the easiest build to understand quite possibly ever. You have one-on-one interaction only that makes the build function, and that is the Supplication Sword. This takes your stinky old Brandish skill and turns it into an absolute beast. Because not only does it massively increase your damage and has the perfect stats, it also transforms the skill to shoot projectiles in all directions. But unlike a post-nut piss, this is actually just what we want, because by doing this, we no longer need to aim the thing. We just run around and press the Brandish button every time we're near enemies, and everything around us just dies instantly. And that's basically the whole build. Unfortunately though, I do want the build to actually be the best it can possibly be, so there are some additional interactions we need to cover. But that's the basics of the build in a nutshell. Get the sword, press button, and win. Alright, and what are the interactions we need to make the build as strong as possible? Well, let's check them out, shall we? By taking a look at the skills first. Here we're rocking Falling Star, a triple aura setup, along with the condom skill and Brandish. And why is that? Well, they all serve an important purpose. Firstly, we have our Falling Star. It's definitely a great mobility skill, but we are also using the Disciple Oath in this build. This allows us to hop into Arbiter form every time we use a Disciple skill with cooldown. And hey, will you look at that? Falling Star is a Disciple skill with a cooldown. This skill, in combination with Condemn, will be how you keep it up permanently. And it's insanely important that you do, in fact, keep it up permanently, or else you'll lose a bunch of yummy damage bonuses. Next up is Defiance Aura. This is yet another important skill. It generates armor, and as you know, armor equals big dam equals big duck, but also resistances and resolve stacks for a big chunk of defense. And also, we are going to use the Resplendence glyph in this build to reset our Condemn and Falling Star. You'll do this by spamming your auras, where Defiance Aura is one of them. And speaking of Condemn, we will be spamming this as hard as possible to keep up our Arbiter, but it also pulls enemies in, making it easy to group enemies up. When it comes to the Fanaticism Aura, it's simply a lot of extra damage. In particular, it generates crit chance, crit damage, and attack speed. And this attack speed is in the second attack speed bucket, where we basically have nothing else we can use other than this aura. And attack speed is going to be important for us, because in the Perragons, we'll turn this directly into damage. More on that later. Finally, the Holy Light Aura is used for healing us, allowing us to deal a lot of hits, and in turn, benefit from life on hit for healing. And of course, Brandish. It's simply the best basic skill out there for the Paladin, largely due to the Supplication Sword. Alright folks, let's continue by taking a look at my gear. I'm currently rocking 2 Mythics, but here's the best part. Due to the Paladin aspects being absolutely broken, Mythics only provide a small damage increase to the build, so if you don't have them, it literally does not matter for shit. And speaking of Mythics, here's my Heir of Perdition. Please ignore the fact that I forgot to put a socket in it. My poor monitor has suffered enough. And why do we want the Heir in the first place? Well, it does provide some nice damage, but we're mainly using it for solving crit chance. Get one with GA on the crit chance and don't ruin it, and you're going to be crit capped easy peasy. And since a lot of our damage is tied to critical hits, you definitely want to get as close to crit capped as possible. And in case your gear is absolute garbage, then just slot in the Gar rune to solve some of the crit chance. I'd also like to mention that you'll find a starter version in the planner in case your gear is actual hot garbage. For your chest, go with Shroud of False Death, if you have it, and focus on the all stats. It'll solve your Perragons, making it highly valuable on top of increasing your strength, which, by the way, is one of your most important stats, seeing as we will be utilizing the Castle Paragon node for a fuckton of damage. And for rune combo, I'm rocking Sur and Vex, as this not only boosts our brandish damage directly, but also indirectly by boosting Defiance aura and Fanaticism. When it comes to the gloves, you have a few options for how you want to solve your caps. You need to split up your attack speed between your gloves and rings, as to get up to 80% unbuffed, as the remaining 20% comes from the Moonrise aspect. But to help you out, you're also getting roughly 40% attack speed from the Perragons, meaning around 40% on your gear is just what you need. And when it comes to the crit chance, you're getting around 22% from your skills and passives, so aim for around 80% on your gear or use the Gar rune instead of Vex. Then once this is done, you can just throw everything at strength, armor, and max life pretty much. But somewhere on your gear, you'll need a life on hit roll, preferably a GA, as this will be your main source of life regeneration. And for aspect, go for Holy Punishment here, for a lovely damage bonus. For pantaloons, we grab the Indomitable aspect for unholy amounts of armor. Your main prio here is about getting as many brandish ranks as possible, which unless this video pops off, which it most likely won't, will be cheap to purchase. Combine that with your typical stats, along with the Ahu and Cax rune combo, which we will keep up pretty much always when clearing packs of enemies. When it comes to the sneakers, the Hectic aspect will keep resetting your cooldowns with ease, as we're attacking fast as fuck with all of the attack speed we're stacking. Other than that though, we're just grabbing the regular stats, along with an Arbiter duration temper as to make it easier to keep up. You do not need these tempers at all, by the way, but it's nice to have when you're just taking it chill and don't want to try hard. Then, the only mandatory item, Supplication. It drops from Grimoire, so you know what you'll be doing the coming couple of days. Ripping Grig a new asshole, that is. Focus on getting as high of a roll as possible on the aspect here, and then prioritize a GA brandish roll followed by attack speed while trying to get the brandish double damage roll as close to 100% as possible. For your offhand, this one's triple GA, but still it's absolute ass, because you 100% want a damage reduction roll here. It'll make you close to immortal with the amount of armor and max life we're combining it with. It's so good, in fact, that it is your main priority here, followed by strength and on-guard ranks. And what is on-guard even, because we are absolutely tempering it everywhere we can. It's this bad boy, getting us to 100% block chance, which will increase our damage substantially later on, along with increasing our damage. And back to the offhand, we're going for the virtuous aspect, as all we need to do is press Falling Star once every 7 seconds, and it's always up. There are some higher DPS aspects, but they all rely on you actually doing stuff. And this one's just easier, so we go with that. Next, we have the Amulet. This one's pretty good. Ideally, you'd of course get a quadruple passive amulet, but that shit's near impossible. So just get as many usable passives as you can find. Pretty much all Paladin passives are great to have on your amulet. Follow that up by slapping on the Ascension aspect for a massive damage bonus. We need to keep this one up at 10 stacks at all times, but that's no problem at all as long as you're not sleeping while playing, which I do understand if you do, but in that case, you just try to get your stacks back up again. And finally, the rings. Again, you want to spread out your attack speed and crit chance to get yourself capped, and then you can start slotting in strength everywhere, followed by max life or armor. For the aspects, we go for Moonrise, granting us both damage and attack speed, and the Celestial Strife aspect, which is yet another reason we don't want to drop out of Arbiter form, as this damage bonus is indeed massive. Not unlike something else, if you know what I mean. Your belly, fatso. Hey, will you look at the time? It's skill tree a fucking clock. And you know it, baby. Starting us off, we have Brandish. Here you have 3 options, and they're all pretty great actually. Returning Light is the shittiest, but it looks the most badass. Sword of Mastery deals the most damage, and Cross Strike applies Vulnerable. And this is actually the best option for all speed farming, because a lot of your multipliers are tied to making enemies vulnerable. So if you don't apply Vulnerable, then you don't deal any damage. So that's why we're rocking this one for everything that isn't high pit pushing, in which case we can grab a lucky hit to make enemies vulnerable roll on one of the rings, or rely on the condom skill to apply Vulnerable. But for 99.9% of content, we go with Cross Strike. All right, and then on to some passives, where we find On Guard, our favorite temper passive. Along with all of our lovely auras here, Fanaticism for attack speed, crit chance and crit damage, along with Defiance, aura for armor, resistances, and of course, Resolve stacks for an additional 20% DR. I'm also rocking Holy Light. Due to the nasty amount of hits per second it's able to dish out, allowing us to benefit hard from our life on hit, and our Ahu and Cax rune combo. Just lovely. We then have some damage passives, where again, any of these are great to have on your amulet, along with Falling Star for mobility and keeping Arbiter form up, along with Condom to group up enemies and for Arbiter form. And as an extra bonus, it also stuns enemies, allowing us to keep up Dizzying Blow for extra damage versus crowd-controlled enemies. In the ultimate tree, all we need is the passives for extra damage before grabbing Coat of Arms for a big-ass damage multiplier. Fantastic! Now, if you want to do some high pit pushing or destroy the tower once it's out, feel free to drop Falling Star for Fortress with Barricade, as it's an extra 20 to 30% damage when you're standing within it. Pretty solid. But for everything else, we want Falling Star for mobility, and with that, we're done with this shit. Let's have a look at the Perragons now, shall we? Because we have some good stuff in there. Firstly, as always, you want to make sure you grab the legendary nodes and glyphs before picking up a bunch of magic and rare nodes. And for the magic and rare nodes you grab, focus on armor and max life, and after that you can dump as many points as you want in strength. For example, here in the starting board where we have Challenger. After grabbing this, go for the Preacher board. This is one hell of a board. Once you've solved your attack speed, you're getting 83% damage from this node, which is all right, but there are slightly stronger nodes that you could have grabbed. But the real reason this one's a banger is because you're getting more than 40% attack speed from all the nodes here and a whopping 37.5% max life. Yeah, that's a lot. Just make sure to get the Resplendence glyph leveled up first so you can take advantage of this board to the maximum. After that, go for Shield Bearer, which is a 100% damage increase as we're maxing out our block chance, and Socket in the Spirit glyph, along with getting as many nodes as possible once you've filled out the rest of the boards for a bunch of critical damage. Once this is done, go for the Castle board, which is our main source of damage in, well, any Paladin build, and Socket in the Apostle glyph, which is yet another great place to dump a bunch of nodes in as it utilizes strength for extra damage. And finally, Divinity for damage versus vulnerable enemies, which is, I think, our 4th or so multiplier from vulnerable, which is why we chose the Cross Strike passive, remember? No? Well, fuck you then, and pay attention. Finally, grab the Arbiter glyph for the multiplicative damage. You don't need to grab any more nodes than necessary here, as it's only for the multiplicative bonus we use it for. Hey, great job, friend. You managed to stick it out this long. Let's check out the gifts and Merc now, and then we'll head off to some gameplay after that. When it comes to the divine gifts, we don't really have any interesting options. We go for screams to stay alive, sin for armor, lies for some fortify, and pain for a Hail Mary barrier if needed. For the mercenary, though, you do have options. The strongest one is Raher, as he provides fortify, armor, damage reduction, and damage. But feel free to use Subo if you prefer the wall hack, it doesn't really matter. And for reinforcement, I realized I fucked this up while recording as I was running the cannibal whilst already attack speed capped. What you do want is Oldkin with the Field of Languish skill for extra damage reduction. Or if you're not attack speed capped, then you can use the cannibal baddie for some extra attack speed. Alright friends, time to get good and learn how to play this magnificent build. Fortunate for you bunch of dummies, as promised, it's easy peasy. We have our Falling Star and Condom for generating Arbiter, but Condom is what you want to be spamming, as spamming Falling Star is quite the DPS loss. So once you've stacked up your Arbiter enough, you only use Falling Star for mobility. For the other skills, you can spam them as much as you want. Pressing the Defiance Aura button generates Unstoppable for you, and Holy Light Aura heals you a bit when used. For your Fanaticism Aura, using it grants weakened on enemies and an additional 20% damage reduction. So ideally, you use it on top of enemies. But man, I typically just button mash and press everything when it's up. You're going to reset the cooldowns with the hectic aspect anyways, so why bother giving a shit? Just press all of them, spam your brandish, and have some fun. When it comes to bossing though, there is something to be aware of. As your brandish projectiles shoot out in a circle around you, you ideally want to crawl as far up your enemy's asshole as possible before you start pressing the brandish button, as this will allow all of your projectiles to hit the boss. Alright, that's all for this one. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.